I must speak about the recent uproar of the Secretary of State. And there's not only the uproar of speaking to a limited and selected part of the press, but it's also just the actual diplomacy and what we saw over the weekend with the Golan Heights and the rest. This goes back to 1807. In President Jefferson, the former Secretary of State, President Jefferson's discussion of how the press fits in to the Robert Hormats world. What is that optimum fit?
Well, I think the key to the press is that and when I was in Washington for many, many years, had very good relations with the press. Not that I anticipated they would agree with everything I said, but that I always found that when you laid out the facts in a rational way, they would respond with rational reporting on the basis of their judgments, and their judgments would not always be the same as the administration's or mine. But I think they play a critically important role in two respects: being a watchdog, which is what Jefferson saw the press to be a very important watchdog, and also informing the American public. Hamilton said a well-informed electorate is critically important. Washington said this as well. We're not going to be able to have a robust domestic policy or foreign policy if the press is belittled. The press has to be seen as a credible watchdog and a credible conveyor of information. And I think by and large, it is.
Do we have a foreign policy right now, or is it so original and ad hoc? And the critical question, Ambassador, is there a permanence to Trumpian foreign policy?
Well, that's an interesting thing. If you're going to change foreign policy, if you're going to make major decisions, like the decision on Golan and numerous other decisions, it is very important not just to make them, but to give the press background as to why you're making them. Give them background as to the process utilized, as to the facts and the various arguments that went into making those policies. Creating a black box with surprise things coming out both confuses the American public because they don't understand how it originated, and confuse their allies. There's one thing I've learned over my many years in Washington is great powers cannot afford to be misunderstood, because if they're misunderstood, it confuses allies who would otherwise, we hope, be with us, and it gives adversaries a sense that they can sort of stir up doubts about America's staying power, about America's credibility, and about the foreign policy making process for the United States.
But Bob,
have to be very clear about what the policy is and how it's made and what the basic facts are in making it.
Right, but people would say, actually, though, if people are confused about what you stand for, then it gives you an extra leverage, right?
Yes, it creates sows doubts among allies, and it gives adversaries a sense that they can go and fish in troubled waters and say, well, we don't know what the Americans are going to do. They're unpredictable. So it gives other countries a more attractive argument in some cases.